Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. With your host, Berserker, this is Unshackled Fury.
Welcome one, welcome all, welcome my friends to the show that never ends. At least not yet. We're here once again in the new year, on a new platform, but with the same great furious taste you've come to enjoy. So welcome back to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions, Unshackled Fury. I'm your host, Berserker. This is episode 101, and today I'm teaching the introductory course on this show. Who I am, what this is all about, and what you, dear listener, can come to expect on these airwaves here and on Warcraft Radio. So yes, for those of you that haven't heard, maybe didn't hear last time's epic episode 100 with Athelas, where I made the announcement that Unshackled Fury is now part of Warcraft Radio. This is one of the featured shows, one of the big shows there at Warcraft Radio. So perhaps you are listening to this show for the first time on Warcraft Radio at the time slot that I worked out with them. It should be 5 p.m. East on Monday, January 17th. That was the spot. So I'm gonna say it here. Hopefully that comes true. So it should be right around that time when you're listening to this. But yes, Unshackled Fury, now a part of Warcraft Radio. Really happy to be here and to be able to be part of this larger podcast community. I think this is about one of the last ones. I almost feel like we're kind of the last bastion holding the, no pun intended, holding the line here, considering all of the things that have happened, particularly over the last year. The scene has shrunk. We are small but mighty, and we're gonna keep bringing it to you. I'm gonna keep bringing it to you every episode that comes. Just so you know, right off the top, every other week. We'll be back on the every other week schedule. Kind of ramped that down a little bit at the end of last year, but new year, we're back every other week, so don't worry. Every 2 weeks, you'll get to hear the same old nonsense as you always have. So this episode should be about the same kind of flavor for longtime listeners. But for you new folks, my goal today on this episode, at least half of it anyway, is to get you up to speed on a few things about this show, who I am, all that jazz, before diving into all the usual rigmarole we get into around here. And for you longtime listeners, now don't worry. I know there is a concern. Oh, Berserker, you're so loud. Like, I get it. I heard it. And there's concern that, like, hey, now you're part of this other organization and you're going to have to ramp it down, scale it back. You won't be able to say and do all the things that you've always said and done. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not true. This is going to be the same old bullshit. I said the same old bullshit. Wait a minute. This ain't right. Hold on. Yeah, hello? Yeah, hey. I'm pretty sure in my contract it says that I can curse and just say all the same. Yeah, what now? Yeah. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, I can say shit. Yeah, I can say fuck. Yeah, I can say goddamn. How about fucking? Yeah. About horse shit. Bullshit. Yeah, all the shit. Yeah, I can say it. Okay, good. Yeah, we're good on that? Okay. Just wanted to clear that up. All right, thank you. All right, bye-bye now. Let's try that again. I'll be able to say the same old bullshit I've always said on this show. So don't worry. Nothing's going to change. And to that effect, one of the hallmarks of this show, for good or for ill, has been a portion of the show that's been around since day one. With a show called Unshackled Fury, you have to have a little bit of rage, right? This is a warrior-centric individual here coming at you live, so to speak. So there's always been a portion of this show called Less Rage. And in it gives me an opportunity to just rage about things that are on my mind. It could be in the game. It could be in the world. It could be just something that happened. And I think I've got something for you that'll give you a good flavor of what I'm about, what the show is about, and what you can expect to hear in a little segment I like to call Let's Rage. Let's go. Let's Rage. So as I said at the top, for long-time listeners, don't worry. We're not going anywhere. This is still Unshackled Fury. Doesn't matter whether we're here or whether we're on Warcraft Radio. We're still going to be keeping our eyes on the prize and not letting people get by with shit that they shouldn't be getting by with. So for those of you that have paid attention to anything, and certainly if you've listened to this show, you know that there have been enormous troubles over at Activision Blizzard, the home of World of Warcraft, of Overwatch, of StarCraft, of all our beloved games on that end of the sphere, right? There have been lawsuits. There have been accusations. There have been really heinous stories about behavior by folks, long-time behavioral problems and managerial problems and harassment problems going on at the House of Blizz, and we've covered it. Other folks have covered it. But I'm seeing an awful lot of silence from certain people. And it is incredibly disappointing to see some of the largest names in this community, people that have been around, people that are well established, people that have incredible reach, whether through social media or streaming or wherever they are, turn a blind eye to what's been going on. These posers, these sycophantic suck-ups, these fucking clout chasers who, they're there, hey, when times are good, when there's a new patch, when there's a new expansion, oh yeah, it's time for games, it's time for stream, here's my code, blah, 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 watch my shit. They're there for that. They're there to take your dollar. They're there to make a dollar for themselves. They're there to increase their follower count or ensure that they're making partnerships or there to raise their profile. But, and this is not hard to discover on your own, just scroll through the social media on the people that you follow or people that are out there and see when's the last time that they said anything about what's going on. When's the last time they used their reach to send out the voices of anyone on the ABK side? Anything at all, a statement, a comment. The more that I see this, the more frustrating it becomes. And you know, last year, and I did talk about this with Atlas on episode 100, we saw in the wake of the George Floyd killing last year, the incredible social unrest that we had here in the United States, and also the unrest that we see globally. And so many people, rightfully so, spoke out and used their reach to amplify the voices that needed to be heard that haven't been given the reach that they should. But for some odd reason, when the eye specifically turns towards Blizzard, they're as silent as a tomb. Oh, you don't want to hurt those connections. Oh, you don't want to burn those bridges, I guess. You still want to be the first in line for interviews or promo stuff or whatever else might come up when it's time to promote, Oh, look at this nice gift box or swag box or influencer thing that I got. You know what? I've been a part of that. People that have listened to it, that I've gotten free shit from Blizzard. And I have been incredibly grateful for that. But I'm also not going to let them off the hook. Because part of that is that I understand that it's not just Blizzard, this monolith, right? That there's no humans involved. There's humans involved. And for those of us that are trying to help them create a better working environment in whatever small way outside of the company that we can, right? We understand that we're trying to help the people that are there. But what's frustrating to me is I see these same people who pretend as if Warcraft, I don't know her. Who's that? When times go bad. But then as soon as something pops up, New World. I never played that. Oh, back to Warcraft. What's going on? Oh yeah, hey, I'm leveling. I got a leveling stream going on. Everybody turn this on. Don't let these people off the hook. And, listen, I have a small reach, but I'll tell you, don't follow these people. They're scumbags. If you can't take the time to at least amplify the voices of the people that are downtrodden just a little bit, like, what kind of a piece of shit are you? Honestly, that you have this incredible platform and the only thing you can think about is yourself and your fucking brand. That's embarrassing. You should be embarrassed for yourself if you're one of those people and you listen to this. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But if you do some soul searching. Honestly, that's embarrassing. Now is the time when we need to be lifting people up that need it the most, especially for people who are creating not just entertainment that we enjoy, right? But the people who, in some cases, are helping make a living for folks on Twitch, social media, wherever. Getting the clicks, getting the views. Help the humans behind the scene that are in trouble. The house is on fire. You can help get the fire out. You can hold the hose. You can get on the line, hold the hose, put the fire out. But no, you're over there standing there taking a selfie with the fire in the background. It's terrible. So here at Unshackled Fury, we'll continue to amplify those voices. And to the people that have the reach, they're solely focused on themselves. That's embarrassing. I can't stand people like that. And if you ever see me in any way associate with someone you've noticed that way, and I, for whatever reason, haven't caught on to it, fucking slap me upside the head for it. Wake me up. Let me know. I'm not perfect either. But I'm not going to spend my time associating with people like that. And honestly, neither should you. Now, that's one way that we can rage on this show. Here's something maybe a little bit different in a double dose of rage for you on this introductory lesson for a few of you. Let me tell you a little story. A cautionary tale for you, if you will. Next month, I have to go travel, which I haven't done at all since the pandemic started. I haven't been on a plane once in years. But I have to travel for a party to go down to a birthday/retirement party for someone very close in our family. And I've been trying to find a gift for this person, and the perfect gift for this person really is only one thing, and that's bourbon. Specifically, Blanton's bourbon. Now, if you know anything about bourbon, Blanton's bourbon, this sort of booze world, This stuff is incredibly hard to come by and has been for several years now. For whatever reason, there's been this huge spike in interest in this particular brand and several others, and it has become extraordinarily difficult. Can't get it at Bevmo, can't get it at the grocery store, can't get it at my liquor store nearby, can't get it hardly anywhere. So I happen to be, which is a rare event for me, on Facebook, which I don't recommend, but happened to be looking at it for something, and across my feed there was an ad for an online store selling booze, and I thought, you know what, I'm running out of time, I need to find this thing, let's grab it up. So pull up the website and I search. Oh god, not only do they have Blanton's, they have it in several different varieties, because with stuff like this, there's the single barrel, there's the stronger proof, there's the, fuck all special edition, whatever. Look at that. It's even on sale for $50. Now, if you know anything about this brand, it is very hard to get this stuff for $50. It used to retail for like $75, $80. Now it retails for, I don't know, $100 plus. $50 seemed like a good deal. Now, I'm not going into this totally blind. I've got a little bit of a feeler up going, okay. But I thought, you know what, for $50 it's worth a shot. The website, all you can play along while I'm doing this, just so you can see that I'm not full of shit. The website here is belazade.com. B as in boy, E as in Edward, L as in Lawrence, E as in Edward, Z as in zebra, A as in Adam, D as in David, E as in Edward.com. belazade.com. And even though that's not what it says like Wannacelli or something on the banner. So, and that was not the case when I was on there the first time. It actually did have Belazade as the thing. So this is red flag number one. But I make the order and I go, okay, fuck it. $50 is worth a shot. So I make the order. Everything's looking fine. Like if you look up Blanton's bourbon on here, it looks legit. There's pictures and it tells you about the bourbon and the whole thing. And there's nothing there that would indicate like, this is off. At least to me. Now, if you look at it now and you scour it, maybe you can find something you're like, that is different. But I order it. A couple days later, I see a charge come through on my credit card for the $50. But it's in a language that I don't recognize at first. Now, I am not the most worldly individual, but I do recognize that this charge is coming from somewhere in China. I go, okay. Well, I do know that the Chinese have been buying up a lot of bourbon, because this is what I've been told from my aficionado folks. And so I thought, okay, well, you buy it up and sell it back. Okay, fine. Let's see what happens. Get an email a couple days later. Shipment has gone out. All right, great. I try to track it. Can't track it. Can't find whoever it is that's tracking it. Tracking number in a style I've never seen. I use one of these random websites that can track any tracking number from any delivery service, and it turns out this is a shipper from China. Okay, so now I know it's definitely coming from China. It arrives about a week ago in Compton, California. So in the Southern California area. And it sits for like a week. Like, what is going on here? Every day I check. It's on USPS, so the Postal Service is going to get this eventually. And it's not moving. And then finally, just this past Friday, I happened to look at it on my phone in the morning, and it says it's bound to deliver in the next hour. Like, oh, shit, it's on its way. Package delivers. I pick it up. Immediately, I know something's wrong. Because if you've ever held a bottle of liquid, you have at least a sense of how heavy something should be. And it did not feel like it was that heavy. And I thought, maybe it's a small, like, little sample bottle, and that's the gig. That's the joke here. That's the rub. I open the box, and inside the box, between two layers of styrofoam, is an empty, fake bottle of Blanton's. The bottle's the wrong color. The horse on the label on the stopper on the top of the bottle is completely fucking wrong. The whole thing is plastic. the label is not written correctly. It's like I got a Rolex watch, right? Or some, Air Jordans. So I got completely bamboozled on this deal, and it's going to make a great white elephant gift one day. But here's the lesson, folks. Don't buy booze from random retailers on Facebook, because God only knows what you're going to get. And fuck those people for taking my money and selling me a completely fake product. Because if you go on their website right now, they're even giving you a deal where you can get 30% off of something. So you can get 30% off of nothing. So good for you. So there's a special place in hell for these people. So watch out. Be careful when you're shopping online. All right. Enough rage. Enough of the rage portion of this show. Let's get on to introductions. Usually this is where I'll kick off my news section. So why don't we go ahead and do that, and we'll jump in from there about who I am, and let's talk about the 10 Unshackled Fury Commandments. Let's go. So you've listened this far, and you're wondering still, perhaps, who the hell is this guy? He's cursing, and he's going crazy on these people, and what is happening here? So I go by the moniker Berserker, born out of my spiritual father, Zakk Wylde, lead guitarist, lead singer of the band Black Label Society. He affectionately calls his legion of fans and followers Berserkers, and that's where I got the name 15 years ago when I started my first and only main tune, my Fury Warrior. The only main I've ever had, and probably the only main I ever will have. But coming up on 15 years, I believe next month, I've seen just about everything from early Burning Crusade up through today. This show, as I'm banging on my mic, this show serves kind of as a few different outlets for me personally. This is part news show, where you're going to hear about some things going on. It's just part opinion show, where you're going to hear me yelling and raging about stuff, or just kind of kicking in my 2 cents on what might be going on. It's part confessional, part therapy. You're going to hear things about myself and my life and my nonsense, and you're like, oh my God, what does this have to do with Warcraft? Sometimes nothing. This show, as has been described back to me, it's kind of like part TMZ, part CNN, right? Part news channel, part just wild and woolly stuff. Like, who knows? It could be anything. So I hope that kind of gives you a flavor of what to expect. It's a little bit of everything. It's not a straight news show. And to help further inform that, I've now put pen to paper, metaphorically, to create what I'm calling the 10 Unshackled Fury Commandments. Sort of the rules that guide this show, what goes on here, and to help better inform you, my dear listener, as to sort of the method to the madness around here. So the first commandment is you shall always play a warrior. And that's even if you just have one on the side. You have to have one. I thoroughly believe that warrior is the best class. We may not always be top of the charts. We may not always be the best tanks. And we certainly can't heal because my dual wield bandage spec just sitting on the sidelines somewhere. But warrior, we have a great kit. We have the best looking armor most of the time. Damn Death Knights. And we have a great history. You know, the history of the warrior in Warcraft is long and proud. Great tradition. Anduin Lothar, right, is one of the chief warriors out there. My Lord and Savior, may he rest in peace. Varian Wrynn, right? Warriors, far and wide, great, and in every form. I will take a warrior. It doesn't matter the race. It doesn't matter the gender. It doesn't matter anything. Just be a warrior. That's it. Number 1. Shall always play a warrior. Number 2. Remember to keep holy Black Sabbath and all heavy metal. Yes, heavy metal guides much of my life. As I mentioned before, where the moniker Berserker came from. But let the fury of Sabaton, Manowar, Black Label Society, whatever metal gets you up and gets you out. If you're not a fan, I guarantee there's got to be something out there somewhere that is in the metal vein that you can jam out to. The heavy metal family tree, if you will, is very wide and so unique in many corners. I guarantee you can find something, but find that little piece of metal to help drive you through. Hell, pump you up for the good times. Power you through the bad times. Get you through the workouts. I don't do them. But whatever it is, just get you through the day. Get that heavy metal flowing. Number 3, you shall always create great alts and then never play them. As you'll hear and as people have heard, I have a treasure trove of alts that languish for eternity. I will use a free boost to get them up from time to time, and then they sit there forever. I've got a paladin that's still sitting in a class hall that I think has been bumped at least twice, but still has the same quest that he did a bunch of years ago, and it's sad because it's a fun kit. It really is, but I just... I hardly ever level my alts. I always say I will. It's vacation time. I'm going to level alts, and then I end up working on some projects, and I don't get around to it, and that's what happens. But create great alts. Never play them. That's number 3. Number 4, you shall create and post pictures of all delicious barbecue. If you follow me on Twitter, you will see, you can scroll through, a lot of pictures of barbecue. I am a huge fan of delicious, slow-smoked meats. Living in California, this is not a bastion for traditional barbecue by any means. I'm thousands of miles from any great southern barbecue. There are a few places around in Sacramento. I live in the Sacramento area. There's a few places that do some decent barbecue, but it's not like, I mean, Franklin's Barbecue down in Austin, right? That's the pinnacle. We don't have it. It's like a ribeye is that steak, and we're eating, it's like an AM PM hot dog, right? That's the comparison I could make there. But I love barbecue. I have a fascination with how it works because I don't really understand it. But from the time I first watched Barbecue Pitmasters on TV, I've just loved it. And got a smoker a few years ago, Weber Smoky Mountain. We've got lots of good recipes for brisket and ribs, and pork ribs, beef ribs. I've done Thanksgiving turkey a couple times. I love it. Pork butt. I love smoking meats, and you'll always see pictures of it. I have a grill gun, which is basically a glorified flamethrower that helps me start the fire, and it's over the top, but that's what all of this is. But you will see lots of my barbecue journey as I go. So number 4, you shall create and post pictures of all delicious barbecue. Commandment number 5, you shall never play PvP. I don't PvP. I don't believe in it. I don't know. It just, I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. I do one Alterac Valley a year as sort of a, I don't know, more of a nostalgic run. Oh, that's nice. Run out of the gates. I'm Alliance. That's the other thing. I'm Alliance through and through. So running through the gates and going down the hill and around and, racing to the end. Once a year I do it. But listen, go talk to Technically PvP. Over here on Warcraft Radio. You want PvP, go talk to them. But you shall never play PvP at Unshackled Fury. Commandment 6, you shall always hear things last from me. I am not the first to break news. I have never broken any news that I'm aware of. I am typically behind the curve. I don't do a weekly show, so that's part of it. But 2, I like to kind of ruminate on things. I like to think about things a little bit and marinate on sort of my opinions. There are typically quick reactions to things that I see that are not necessarily the right, I think, takes, and I don't want to be, as much as possible, one of those folks. So I try to kind of deliberate before I get to something. So it's either out of habit or out of necessity that I am typically not the first. So by the time you hear things on this show, there's a good chance it's been discussed somewhere else. But if it's important enough, I still feel the need to bring it up on the show, put my stamp on it, and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I think about this thing, and give you my piece. And on that, commandment number 7, you shall always have an opinion. Like I said earlier about the folks who don't comment on the Activision Blizzard lawsuit harassment situation, don't sit on the sidelines. Don't be that person. There's nothing worse to me than somebody who can't have an opinion, even if it's a shitty opinion. Hey, you know what? At least you had one. At least you had one. Even if it's totally unfounded and full of crap, hey, at least you have an opinion. It's people who are wishy-washy and can't put a stake in the ground. I can't stand. I can't stand it when I do it myself. When I'm really hemming and hawing on something, it's like, God damn it, shit, get off the pot. Let's go. Don't be on the sideline. Always have an opinion. Try to make it informed. Try to make it a good one, but always have an opinion. Commandment number 8, honor your friends who try to avoid spoilers. On this show, one of the other things that I have typically tried to do is stay away from spoilers, especially when it comes to the story, before we can even play it or before I myself have played it. Now, there are exceptions to this. If there are items that are particularly huge or newsworthy or whatever it is, I will jump in and talk about it and say, well, we can't avoid this situation now. We gotta talk about this. But for the most part, I try to let people have an opportunity to play through content live before I comment on, here's where we are on the story, here's what I think about this turn. And you can listen to past episodes. There's plenty of things where I'm like, I know people know how XYZ's storyline resolves, but I don't. And here's my guess, and here's my take on it, and if I'm fucking wrong, then so be it. But I try to give people, and myself, to some degree, a little bit of room to play it out live and for real. Because when we have data mining going on, it becomes problematic, and also people know things so far in advance they kind of forget, and things lose their impact. So I always try to be mindful about spoilers, about letting people play through the story first, and then coming onto this show and talking about what's relevant that week or those weeks as they're happening. Commandment 9, only have guests when it's important. You'll notice that this show does not have a lot of guests. I don't really do guests. I don't think it's good for the kind of the nature of this show. It's just not really how this show is built. Previously, I have had a co-host on this show, the great and wonderful Navox, who was part of The Converted podcast for a long time. And then he came over onto Unshackled Fury and banged around with me for a while. We had some great times, and he's since gone on to other ventures over the summer of last year, and so we had a great time together, and it was great having another person to bounce ideas off of. But his absence is not going to suddenly have me bringing on a bunch of guests, because I just don't do guests. I only bring them on when I think that they are going to be impactful. Having Athelas on for episode 100 made perfect sense. The founder of Warcraft Radio, good guest to have when you're jumping onto that platform. I've had Des Mephisto on when he was doing all of his amazing warrior leveling and everything else that was going on. Fantastic guest to have. Copperbolt, who did the art for this show. Kane Kong, who did the music for this show. Madeline Rue, who wrote Shadows Rising. Right? Those are the kinds of guests that I want to have when they have purpose, not just out of just rote nature of the show. So you won't hear guests on this show very often, but when you do, I hope that they have a great impact. And last but not least, Commandment 10. I am your host, Berserker, but you, the people, are the most important of all. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support. You, the person listening to this podcast. Obviously, I don't know all of you. I don't know all of you personally. But you've taken the time out of your day, your valuable, precious time, to download this episode, to pull it up wherever you pulled it up, maybe online, and given it a listen. It's an odd thing at times to make a podcast, because right now I'm just sitting alone in my den yelling into a microphone. And it's kind of a mind fuck to think about how other people will listen to this. Other people will have thoughts and emotions and all kinds of reactions to what's being said here. And that's kind of a wild and bizarre thing to me. But at the end of the day, you have taken the time to listen to this show, to follow me on social media, to converse with me about whatever's going on. And it's you, my dear listener, that are most important of all. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to listen to the show and to support me. And above all else, Unshackled Fury listeners are the best. And I will take you over any other listenership there is. We might be small in comparison, but fuck it, man. We are mighty. So there you go. The 10 Unshackled Fury commandments there for all to hear. And hopefully that gives you, new listeners, a good comprehensive view of what this show and what this hosts are about. And maybe a little refresher for some of you longtime folks to yeah, that sounds about right. Or I'm just full of shit and you can tell me that too and be like, Berserker, that is totally not at all what this show has been about or what you're about. And you're trying to bamboozle the folks and get the fuck out of here. So you are free to do that too. So on to some news, actual news, because we do have some other things to talk about before at the end we're going to have a little fun. As I mentioned several times, this show is trying to keep tabs as much as possible on what's going on with Activision Blizzard, with the lawsuits that have been going on, with all of the upheaval and disruption that has happened over there. I'm not going to recap everything, but where we are essentially right now is that there are multiple lawsuits pending against Activision Blizzard related to harassment and related to hiring practices and related to discrimination, and it's really, really heinous stuff. The primary ones that we've talked about are, there's one that really kickstarted things in July from the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. A 2-year investigation that resulted in a lawsuit being filed after arbitration or mediation couldn't be completed between the state and Activision Blizzard. They were, Activision Blizzard basically told the state to get fucked. And so the state said, okay, fine, we will file suit. Here we go. Well, in the meantime, the federal government has also had an investigation going. So it tells you how great things are going for the company when there are multiple lawsuits happening from the state and the federal government about essentially the same kinds of things. The federal government lawsuit, though, is near settlement. And here is kind of where we have a situation going on right now. And it's been sort of getting to an end, I think, here, where the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, if you've never heard of them, they are in charge of discrimination complaints at a very, very high level. This is, if you are at this level, or if you're hearing from them, you're in some pretty deep shit. The issue is that lawsuit, if I understand this correctly, is nearing settlement. And if that occurs, that essentially precludes what could happen in the state's lawsuit. So there's been a clash between the state and the feds trying to figure out who can do what. Unfortunately, the workers, of course, are not benefited by this at the moment. Trying to get a large settlement out of Activision Blizzard is the overall goal, I think, for both ends, to try to make the parties whole that are invested in these lawsuits, the individuals who've been harmed by the company, trying to get them some sort of settlement. But that's kind of the status of those lawsuits, as I understand it, is they are competing at this point to try to figure out which settlement is going to happen and what implications that may have on others. And ultimately, is Blizzard going to change its behavior? Is there going to be meaningful change? Activision Blizzard has had issued to them by their workers, the ABK Alliance. They've had 4 demands issued, and at this point there still hasn't been meaningful engagement. The workers at Activision Blizzard are attempting to unionize right now, and instead of trying to work with them, Brian Bulletow, I think if I can say that name correctly, issued this really shitty statement basically trying to say, well, if you unionize, who knows what you're gonna get, right? It's those are the kinds of what they call union busting tactics that occur. Now, I think there are fair arguments to be made on all sides of this to an extent. But when you have a company like the Activision Blizzard who has behaved so heinously for so long, something has to give. A break has to happen. There have been walkouts, as we've talked about in the past, walkouts at Activision Blizzard staff walking out saying, well, until something happens, we're not going to be here. And Activision, the ABK, a better ABK, they have set up the strike fund. So if you want to donate to that, you can. For folks who are striking right now, there is a situation concerning Raven Software employees who were laid off. They're a division of Activision Blizzard, QA workers, the testers, who were laid off in December. And unfortunately, this was not really a situation where folks were just sitting around with nothing to do. Call of Duty, as you may have heard, has had a bit of a rough release. Call of Duty Vanguard. And a lot of folks are pointing to the fact that the QA team was not as robust as it needed to be. And so currently, in the wake of these layoffs, because there were, I believe, 12 QA testers that were let go, there are currently folks striking in support of these members. In combination with this, we've talked about CEO Bobby Kotick quite a bit, how he has been central to the long-standing problems that have plagued Activision Blizzard. There have been calls for his head left and right, and from all quadrants of, frankly, gaming, from other companies, from folks outside of gaming, saying, listen, you got to make a change. It's not working with this guy. A recent report came out about gaming CEOs, and I believe that the breakdown was that Bobby Kotick makes $77,000 per hour, which I think a week's worth of pay could have covered those 12 Raven employees with full benefits for an entire year, right? I mean, that's the level of wealth that we're talking about. But ultimately, people have been calling for his head, for him to be removed forcibly or willingly, and that would be a show of trust, perhaps, a show of support for the people who have been calling for change, that this would be a show that the board of directors of Activision Blizzard are listening. But no, he's still there. And by all indications, he may not be leaving. Currently, shares of Activision Blizzard are trading at $65.39 per share as of today. Nearly a year ago, shares were $103. So the stocks have fallen in their value. Typically, that is where people start to panic and go, holy shit, we got to make a change. But for whatever reason, Bobby Kotick is hung on like a man once said, like an Alabama tick. Just dug in, not going anywhere. He's been with the same board members, many of them, for a very long time. There are questions of whether or not those board members are getting stock, not buybacks, but getting some sort of stock incentives that may be not a bribe, but it sure kind of looks like a bribe. And herein lies the overall issue, is that as time goes on, this is where the grind kicks in. And going back to the top, if those of us that are around the community, not just the workers, but all of us in this community, if we do not raise our collective voices to call for change, that swell of support will start to diminish. It will die down, things will quiet down, and business will go back to the way that it was. And this cycle will repeat itself all over again. And that's what we can't have. For a number of reasons. One, the human reason, right? We want people to feel, just generally, right? Humans, we want people to feel supported. So in a job, they should feel like they don't have to be harassed. That not only do they not feel like that they just aren't. That you're not being forced to be subjected to all kinds of heinous comments and do these ridiculous, cube crawl things and, the comments that are being made, the lack of promotion and hiring that was happening, right? All of that can't happen. On the human end, it's terrible. And those changes have to be made. And this is a little more callous, but like on the gaming end, let's say, this is not good for production. It's not good for getting patch 9.2 or the next expansion out or the next whatever out. Like, just from a gaming perspective, it's not good because when people are striking, when people are fleeing a company, your institutional knowledge is just pouring out the door. That's not good. That is not good. And you are not going to be putting out a quality product anytime soon. So, from a business standpoint, and that's the lament of the Activision Blizzard marriage, right? Is that Activision, the overlords, are pushing the old Blizzard motto of it's ready when it's ready. They're pushing that out of the way to say, no, we got to make, quarterly earnings reports. So let's get out that next patch. Let's get out that next store item. Let's get out that whatever. Do I always believe that that's the way it is? No, I don't believe that that's always the truth, but there's some truth to it for sure. And I don't think that all the old timers that left Activision Blizzard, I don't think that they left just because of the problems that we know about now. I think that there was a management struggle over the soul of Blizzard, and I think that the old guard lost. But we, the players, those of us that have some kind of a reach, whether it's on social media, whether it's on streaming, whether it's on podcasts or whatever, we have to stay vigilant. We have to keep our voices loud to help the people that need help. And so you will continue to hear about that on this show. We will continue to monitor updates as they go on. Hope for the best for the folks striking on behalf of the Raven software QA folks. Maybe they can find a way to bring them on board and get them full-time employed, because the money's there. It's not that there's a question about money. It's the way that contract work is handled, and it is something that needs to change. And let's keep it loud. Let's help them out. Hopefully we can get there. So, speaking of 9.2, Eternity's End, that is how it feels right now. It is just an eternity waiting for this to pop up. For the most part, the only real update that we've had from the developers. Now, there's PTR stuff going on. I'll mention that in a bit. But we did have an official blog post or a news piece that came out. And this was just this past week, a few days ago, on January the 13th, titled World of Warcraft News and Development Updates. And they're just brief. They're brief updates mentioning that the PTR is up and running, that we'll be able to step into Zereth Mortis and start doing some of the Sepulchre of the First One's raid testing. I've heard that the raid testing is going okay. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're checking out the fights and finding the bugs and doing the deal. So there will be raid testing going on with a name that I can't even pronounce on Desanya, the Fallen Oracle, Skolex, the Insatiable Ravener, and Artificer Zymox on Mythic difficulty. And they will also be doing the first wing of Raid Finder difficulty. So if you are interested, you can jump on the PTR and check that stuff out. I have not been doing that. Bad podcast host. Not even looking at the PTR yet. I'm terrible. God, just delete this show. They let us know also in this post that Shards of Domination, which were controversial to say the least, will be disabled in a bunch of content coming up in 9.2. In Zereth Mortis, they won't be working. In the raid Sepulchre of the first ones, it won't be working. In dungeon, PvP, not going to happen. But they're still going to work everywhere else, including the Maw, the Sanctum of Domination raid, which we have right now, and in Torghast, which I have been playing some Torghast recently. I know that it's Borghast for a lot of people, but coming back after not playing it for a while, I was having some fun again. I'm not going to lie. Took a break, came back, ripping and running through there. It was a good time. They're also going to be doing some Tazavesh testing on the PTR, and they had some updates for Demon Hunters and Warlocks. Huzzah! There's also some WoW Classic news. I also want to talk about the Community Council. Community Council. Remember that? Remember the Community Council where people were applying to be part of this Community Council and getting to weigh in on topics of conversation with devs, right? What a fucking bust that has turned out to be. I have not seen a single positive comment about it. They did put out some updates that they're still working to review the over 10,000 applications that they received. I mean, no surprise that they got a lot there. But I haven't seen a lot of positive comments. What I have seen are people on the council weighing in. Some of it's been good commentary, but no devs following up on that, or very few instances of devs commenting on that. It hasn't been a positive experience so far. And for me, again, I don't really understand what this WoW Community Council is supposed to do. Like, I don't really understand the purpose. Now, you can be super cynical about it and say, oh, it was just a PR thing, man. They just did it because they wanted to get people off their back. Brr. I don't really think that that's right. And I'm not going to take such a cynical view of it. But I do think that this needed a little more time to cook before they rolled it out, because it seems like there is a progression to where they think they want to go with this, but it's not there yet, and it's people just kind of yelling into the dark, like making a podcast. So I'm gonna reserve judgment on this to see a little bit further how it plays out, but right now it is not playing out well, and it sure looks like a busted idea. It feels like a busted idea, but I want to give them the chance to really roll this out as fully fleshed out as they, I think, internally are looking at it as. But right now, it's not great. It's not great. But overall, patch 9.2, I think that the prevailing theory seems to be roll out in February for the announcement. March is about the time. Maybe late February, March is when we get the patch. So it should be right around the corner. Eternity's end. The eternity should be ending for the next patch some point soon. We are seeing a lot of data mining. What is being data mined, particularly with respect to the story, is very contentious. I'm not going to get into it here right now on this episode, except to say there are a lot of discussions right now about the Jailer's plan, now that we're seeing, I guess, most of it or all of it being data mined, and this, galaxy brain, multi-level chess, insanely intricate plan that had to have happened in order for us to get to where we're at, and why that's problematic, and also why the Jailer just hasn't been a good baddie for World of Warcraft. And I've seen conversations about that on other shows, on other platforms. The thing about the Jailer for me, great aesthetic, right? I dig the aesthetic. Going back to, I'm a huge Arthas Lich King fanboy. Like I say that all the time. So if the new people, I'm a huge mark for that. Is it the most original story? No, but I vibed with it. I loved it. I liked the way that it played out. I really dug it. And so to bring back, especially just this kind of dark runic thing, I dug it. I loved it. I was all with it. Here we go. He's getting more badass as time goes on. He gets his armor, the whole thing. The aesthetic, I love. but he is kind of boring. Like, I come in and I say this thing, and you are now my prisoner. I'm gonna crush you, brr. Okay. Like, they should have had this guy swoop in on some kind of insane giant beast. You know, a huge dragon. You know, resurrect Galakrond and ride in on that bad bastard and swoop in and, like, crush a city like Deathwing did, or like take one of the beloved characters and just smoke them out of existence, right? Come in and establish that this individual is hard and insane and will go to, you know, any length to achieve their goals. We were more focused on Sylvanas and what she was doing and what, you know, infinite level chess game she was playing. The jailer was just some dude in the background. They needed to bring him in and have him do something, you know, big. You can't kill Varian again. You already did that. But come in and, I don't know, take Gen and just, like, crush him in your hand, or, you know, stomp out Jaina, or, you know, find Zappy Boy and, like, tear him in half, or, you know, something that makes people go, holy shit. Like, that was, he needed a holy shit moment. Never got it, and now we just don't care. So, I think that there are some plausible explanations to get to where we're going to. It does require a little bit of mental gymnastics. Listen, this isn't Shakespeare. No one's going to win an Oscar for this, right? It's a video game. So, there's a certain expectation, right, at some point. I like the stories. I think that they're good. God, I can feel like I'm ducking tomatoes already by that statement. But I like what they've done. I enjoy going on the ride, right? I don't... Do I agree with every choice? No. But I like the ride that we're going on, and I'm willing to go on it and keep going on it, obviously, or else I wouldn't be here. But there are plenty of people who are mad, and as things roll out in 9.2, I will have more specific comments to each leg of the story, because I want to see it in real time. I want to see it play out live. Things can change on the PTR. So let's see how that plays out, and I will give more commentary at that point. Now, to end the show today, this first Warcraft Radio episode, this grand experiment that we're on here, we talked about 9.2. I want to go even further into the future. I want to talk about some 10.0 leaks. Oh, 10.0 leaks. Next expansion leaks. It's the season for leaks, if you hadn't heard. I have scoured the internet for you, my listener. By that I mean I went on the internet and searched Google. I scoured the internet for you, for the best leaks that we have up. And I am going to give you not just what's in the leak. I'm going to give you a rating for each one of how it's kind of a combination, my rating is, of how plausible I think something is, how good I think something is, and how much effort was put into the leak. Because as we know, some people are just bullshitting. Most people are just bullshitting. They have no idea what it is. But they're putting out in, oh, I'm on this secret account and I'm posting this thing. Believe me or not. But somewhere in there is always the real one. Every expansion I've ever played has gotten leaked somewhere, some way, by somebody. Most of the time when it's come out, people go, oh, that's bullshit. Warlords of Draenor? That's ridiculous. No one's going to do that. I was one of the ones that was like, Miss Pandaria. No one's going to play that shit. I'm going to quit WoW if they do that. Of course, I didn't, and it was an amazing expansion and shows what I know. So I've scoured the internet for you. And I have my top 7 leaks for you. This is what I'm going to give you. First one out of the gate is that Blizzard Entertainment will become Insight in 2022. And according to this, Blizzard Entertainment is being dissolved early 2022. It is going to be replaced by a new team called Insight that will be a more direct part of the renamed Activision Insight. Much of Blizzard, though not all, will be sacked and replaced with new employees for Insight. And it goes on to talk about some of the other franchises, but specific to World of Warcraft is entering official maintenance mode. The little work that was already put into the expansion after Shadowlands will be released 9.3 sometime in 2023. 9.3, despite the name, has nothing to do with Shadowlands and is just made up of salvaged stuff from 10.0. And they say that Wrath of the Lich King Classic will launch in 2023, and it is the last Classic expansion planned. And then a new untitled World of Warcraft successor MMORPG is in the works, looking to take a lot from Final Fantasy XIV. It's going to be developed by a majority new team than those who made and worked on WoW. It is not a sequel, but a total reboot with new lore, currently only in the planning stage. The base game will focus on Valinassus, the Eastern Kingdoms, and Outland, with playable races from both worlds. It is currently believed to not have factions. It will not borrow from Hearthstone, which will remain separate and continually updated with new expansions. Well, don't really think that this one's hitting the mark. I don't see Activision Blizzard being dissolved. I don't see them restarting with Warcraft. So I'm going to give this one half-hearted wank out of 10. That's my rating for that one. Next one. This one doesn't even have a title. Just says, Endgame. Collect new mounts and pets. Why? Because what else is there? Before that, grind levels and bosses and content you feel like never touching more than once. I really hope the above ends with Shadowlands and gets something new, fresh, fun, and exciting. But I'm not keeping my hopes up or expecting anything more than a complete disappointment. Actually, forget new and fresh. If they could develop time walking further and allow us to experience all old raids in the same way Final Fantasy XIV does, one difficulty with its own queue that doesn't require physically traveling to entrance, I would resub and stay subbed forever, says this person. I'm going to give this one let's see, one dead magical crawdad out of 10. Yeah, terrible. Next one. This one has a title. This one actually has a name. Invasion of the Old World. Have you heard about this one? Something beneath Azeroth is causing old worlds to shift direction, causing Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdom, Northern End, Pandaria, Zandalar, Kulturas, and the Broken Isles to combine into one massive landmass. Species, factions, and elements who have never met will meet for the first time, because we've never traveled or have portals. With so much chaos in the old world, the Iron Horde and the Burning Legion, who I thought we killed, make their move to invade the new Azeroth. Alliance and Horde are now forced to work together, finally allowing players of each faction to play alongside each other. New raids, including Burning Temple, where the High Lords of the Burning Legion conspire to destroy everything and everyone in their path. The Iron Horde is working out of Forges of Despair, creating weapons of mass destruction. A new profession is introduced known as soul fusing. Players can harvest souls from most slain creatures, rares dropping legendary and epic essences. Soul fusing allows players to combine different souls to create our very own weapons of mass destruction. A new auction house system is also introduced called bartering, allowing players to trade easier. I don't know how hard it is now, is it? Let's say trade a verse gem for a haste enchant. Aha. This can now be done through the auction house for as little or big of an item you'd want. All right, so interesting concepts there. Cross-faction play is something everybody's screaming for. I like the factions. I think it's core to Warcraft, and I feel like I'm probably in the minority. But interesting stuff there. But a lot of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna give this one with soul fusing, right? 3 half-powered Gogetas out of 10. And if you don't know what a Gogeta is, go look it up. Next, this one came from a post titled "Expansion Leak by Fired Blizz Dev." I like that. Angry ex-employee. Right? It says, "Hello there. I got a message yesterday evening from an old friend of mine who doesn't work at Blizzard anymore. The new expansion is called World of Warcraft Homecoming. World of Warcraft Homecoming. And here's what they had to say about it. A rework of Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. We go back to level 50 and have the option of leveling wherever we want to level 60. New zone 2 are added on each continent. Does that mean 2 new zones? In one of the new dungeons, the last boss is a resurrected Hogger. Now, I've said this before, but I think Hogger's still alive. I think he's just in jail, right? Is he dead? I don't think he's dead. Maybe he is. I don't know. Reworked professions. 2 new battlegrounds and reworked PvP items. 10-man dungeon with unique drop. Very specific. Dragon Isles later. That's getting us somewhere. And each patch unlocks another zone located there. The history is diverse due to the refreshed zones, and we meet old friends and enemies. There will be something like a mage tower, but for 3 players, there will be different challenges that will be added with each patch. The rewards will be cosmetic. Additionally, if we complete a challenge in the current patch it was added, we will get an elite version of the Transmog or mount. We have that already. A new neutral race. God, not another one. For both factions, which will be introduced in order to unite them, thanks to which we will be able to cooperate in the disabled war mode. Pandaren, I think, you get to choose, but I feel like they already filled that role. PvP activities in the old world, I don't care about that. Sylvanas is exiled to the Shadowlands by the Council of Azeroth because no one with common sense would like to stay there any longer. In the last seconds of the battle with the jailer, he explains his motives to us, so we apologize for fighting him and let him finish his mysterious plan. Undeads and Night Elves are angry on their factions because the rest of the races do not want to start another war, so they decide to create a new capital city for them in order to destroy Horde and Alliance. Unity and then a third faction. Anyway. Totally implausible. I'm going to give this one 2 high-quality Zoval nipples out of 10. Terrible. Let's start getting to some better ones, shall we? This one, Rise of the Aspects. I think now we're going to start getting maybe a little closer to what's going on. New continent, the Dragon Isles. 5 zones thematic to the different aspects. There's a story in each zone about their return to power. 1 zone is fully dedicated to endgame content like Suramar. This is the zone thematic to the Black Dragonflight. Wrathion is the central character here. This is also the location of Deathwing's corruption, which the story will dive into. Oh god. The first raid is located in the zone, a massive old god temple. Jeez, it's not an old god. Please, not an old god expansion. A la Storm Song Valley, but larger. N'Zoth did not die and is in the background. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's another not old god expansion. New PvE system layers. Not like layer of a cake. More like layers, like layer where a dragon lives. Procedurally generated cavern layers that will feature a variety of different bosses to fight. That does sound kind of cool. New class Tinkerer. I don't believe that for a second. Key points. All cap, level cap raised to 70. Time walking zones become 1 of 60. Shadowlands is added to Chromie. They're just going to bury the Shadowlands altogether. Partial old world revamp. Notable zones that are overhauled to include Teneris and Twilight Highlands. These will have content related to max level, and players will visit them briefly during questing. The Infinite Dragonflight has a major presence in Teneris. Gadget Zan is updated. It is a larger quest hub, but not as portrayed in Hearthstone. Cultists are back. Other zones get improved graphics. Cross-faction play. Conclusion of the Shadowlands and pre-patch. Using the Forge of the First Ones, the Jailer successfully drains Azeroth, severely injuring the planet. The wounds that we sealed reemerge. After the Jailer's been defeated, the First Ones appear in a cinematic. Zoval gets deactivated. He's not dead. We'll come back. Tyranda's going to forgive Sylvanas. Oh my god. Anduin is saved, but he's still fucked up. And everyone's skeptical of him. And they choose Turalyon over Anduin. Oh my god, tension in the Alliance is growing. And the Scarlet Crusade continues to grow with Turalyon playing a big part in this. So, there's more to it than this one, but this kind of resonates. Now, the Dragon Isles, and there's another one here, seems to be where everybody's going, and I feel like it's a red herring almost, because we think it's going to be one thing and it's totally not. Like Shadowlands seemed like a fucking bizarro idea, but that's where we went. Indications seem to be this is what's going on, so it's possible that this one is in there. It's decent. I'm not sure how I like all of it, so I'm gonna give this one 6 Chromie deaths out of 10. That's where I'm gonna land on this one. Now, to the one that everybody's been talking about as of late, the dragon. It's just Dragon Isles. Just straight up, it says just straight up called the Dragon Isles, and the marketing tagline is Azeroth has awoken. And so, at the end of the Shadowlands, Azeroth is ruptured. The jailer is defeated, but there's consequences. Magni reverts back from his diamond form. The pre-expansion event is said to be very large. Earthquakes, invasions, crazed trogs, Quillbore, Mantid, and elemental invasions across most of Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdoms, Northrend, and Pandaria. A new world boss, Garadon, son of Galakrond. I mentioned Galakrond earlier. See, this is something about big old dead dragons that people love. So they're saying here that the 10.0 cinematic is the biggest one of all time, that a bunch of stuff in Shadowlands was essentially scrapped so they could do this new expansion cinematic, which is, quote, a love letter to Azeroth. And it mirrors the original WoW cinematic, launch cinematic, and ends with Azeroth, like Azeroth, I guess the Titan, being born. As a result of the Jailer's assault, Azeroth the Eternal is born from the world's souls, and she's a dragon, sort of. Says all world souls are unique, and Azeroth's essence has indirectly shaped the planet for eons. Dragons are tied directly to Azeroth, who is sort of the dragon progenitor. Once players reach the Dragon Isles, I guess the Dragon Isles are on the backside of the planet. Are we doing the backside of the planet thing? Is that where we're at? Once players reach the Dragon Isles, they work directly with Azeroth to reshape the world. The story here is the living planet has taken a beating over the last couple of decades and is having dire consequences for anyone living there. Yeah, I mean, I think there's truth to this, and everybody, I feel like we coalesce around this idea that the planet itself has taken a pounding. You know, you go back to vanilla and the way that the world was, and then there was the cataclysm, and there's just been war after war and fight after fight, and things have just been going crazy for all this time. Like, it makes sense, and that's the problem. That's where I get skeptical of these, because when things like we reason ourselves and we logic ourselves into how this stuff makes sense, it seems to be when we get the rug pulled out right from underneath us. But let's continue here. They're characterizing Azeroth as like Lilu from Fifth Element. So if you've ever seen Fifth Element, a supreme being with the mind of a child. That's a good analogy. Super powerful, but like feeling like frightened and alone, and needs to figure out who they are and where they fit, and they got shit to do, but they don't know how to get there. Like that could be interesting. Players need to help her unlock her powers and heal the planet. She's in a temple on Dragon Isles with Thrall and Wrathion. Lots of Earthwater lore as the three of them try to do what Deathwing couldn't. Try to protect the Earth? Protect Azeroth? No. Azeroth has her own talent. Oh, fuck that. No talent trees, no world bond abilities. Boo. I don't like that. New abilities are like Covenant abilities, but no additional locked-in choices. Everyone gets the same abilities. Abilities have secondary effects depending on the zone you're in. You know, they tried that in Warlords of Draenor, where with your garrison you could have different abilities in different zones. It was okay. I don't think it was that exciting. Dragon Isle zones will change over time via world shaping. Some pretty cool massive changes, like a whole zone turning from a desert into a forest. That's cool. Zone is heavily elf focused, with night elves trying to discover a way to restore Teldrassil. Okay, with that Azeroth's help. All right. You plant trees. Oh lord. And tend to a huge forest like a massive version of the Mists of Pandaria farm. Black dragons. Okay, so black dragons are going to be the new folks, new race. Work like Worgen, and then we'll work with Wrathion. Okay, so again, people seem to be coalescing around the Dragon Isles, and all of this sounds plausible. Like you could do this. And I like the direction that it's going. It's not shitting all over my boy Anduin. So, you know, I'm going to give this one 8 Wrathion Anduin fanfic stories out of 10. Pretty probable. high on the list. But here's my top one. And I'm giving this one 10 Manduins. That's right, 10 Manduins out of 10. And this one is called Light's Vengeance. 10.0 is the return of the Lightbound. Uriel, remember Uriel? That Draenei that we helped out in Warlords of Draenor? And her Draenei Lightbound integrate with the Alliance. Exarch Garrosh, that's right, there's still another Garrosh around out there. And orcs are welcomed into the Horde despite some objections. Uriel and company were fleeing their timeline from Infinite Dragonflight. 10.1 is marked by a time of relative peace. With the Lightbound's assistance, Alliance begins restoration of Darkshore Felwood and Horde Tirisfal Plaguelands in earnest. Similar mechanics to Isle of Keldanos, Isle of Thunder with weekly progression via world quests and material turn-ins to unlock zone bonuses and eventually the new raids. One for Alliance, one for Horde. Story-wise, both get them mechanically. Alliance are fighting demons and blighted creatures. Horde are fighting Scarlets and Cult of the Damned. Okay. 10.2 reveals that Uriel and Garrosh have been working to undermine their respective factions. Ooh. They were never fleeing the Infinite Dragonflight. The Infinites were being chased to our timeline by the Lightbound's Naru. See? Ha-ha! We knew the Naru were up to some shit. Those who accepted the new light binding are forcibly controlled into their service. Stormwind and Elwyn become new questing zones. Bronze Dragon enabled to not break old quest leveling experiences. Okay. Raid is the Lightbound's Naru vessel. Teleporter located in Stormwind Keep. 2 new dungeons. All right. 10.3, Anduin, after seeing his city mind-controlled and slaughtered, realizes that Uriel's idea was flawed and not going far enough. Instead of letting people choose to be bound, he will force it on the planet to remove the world's suffering and unite them under a single rule. He and Kalia fuse with Naru and begins forcibly light-binding en masse. Global world quests across Azeroth. Major NPCs of both sides mind-controlled or killed. Raid is a crystalline palace Anduin constructs on the remains of Gilneas made out of light shards. I love it. All race classes get an optional quest for light-based cosmetics and a few other things. So, here's why I like this one so much. There is a light void confrontation coming, right? Like, we keep pointing back to the cosmology chart, the updated cosmology chart, whichever one you want to look at, right? There are other areas, other places, other kind of forces that we have yet to really face the same way we have with others. And I there's something about this light and void battle that's out there that's the one I gravitate towards. That's the one that I like, because we have Turalyon, who knows what he's been up to. Yeah, there's something going on with these other Lightbound and Uriel and what's going on with her. We know Anduin's got some kind of crazy void thing going on, and we haven't really seen much of that yet. You know, there's a Shadow Priest in there somewhere, and there's more to it than that. We've had this void kind of complication that's out there, and Nav used to talk about this all the time, and I think he's right. There's something going on there that we have yet to see, so that's the one that I like the most. 10 Manduins out of 10, but ultimately, what would I want? If it were up to me. I said this on a previous show. I want to keep things going in a just an even weirder direction. There's so much of this cosmos yet left to explore, right? You can do the light and the void and all that, which I think would be great. But where do the space mummies live? Where are the ethereals from? I've always wanted to go to Space Mummy Planet and see what they're up to. Yeah, I think they live in the Twisting Nether or some shit. But let's go there. Let's see what. There's got to be some just wild, unheard of, unthought of things, and that's where I think Warcraft is at its best, when they surprise us, when they think of the things that we don't think of. I don't like it when they telegraph stuff too much. I don't think that they do that often, but I love that they are smarter about this than I am in coming up with things that are just super creative. I never would have thought of the Shadowlands in a million years. You know, they say you could, with infinite time, you could have a room full of monkeys and they'd make Shakespeare or something. Like, I could not come up with the Shadowlands. I never would have thought of it. So, I want to see them just continue to go to these new, wild, and crazy places. If I want to go back and level a character through Elwyn Forest, I can always do that to get that vibe and to see that place. I can go back to Classic and play that if I want to. But there's so much of the fantasy genre that you can tap into that's out there. It's way out there. So I say keep going. Keep going. Make it wild. Have some fun. That's what we want. So there you have it, my listeners. The top 10.0 leaks that I've seen over the last handful of months, and sort of my thoughts and ratings on them. But check them out for yourself. They're out there. They're not hard to find. They're on all kinds of forums and posts. Most of these are on MMO Champion. It's just always a great place for this stuff. Not the best conversation always, but the posts are out there. But check it out for yourself. And if you have some ideas or thoughts on this, I would love to hear those as well. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode. Episode 101 and the first, I hope, of many on Warcraft Radio. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, you can always follow me and this show on Twitter at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury. You can also join our Discord, links for which are in the profile of the show on Twitter and our Warcraft Radio page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or unshackledfury.com. And you can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high. And we'll see you next time. Farewell.